Welcome in, friends, and a future prince of the sports and the world podcast. I'm Adaris. Apologies for being a little late. That's on me. Things things happen. But thank you if you're here for joining. Lots to talk about. Plenty to talk about. We're going to talk a little college football. We're going to talk about give some NFL predictions. It's going to be a rather loaded show, and I'll explain why toward the back end of the show. Naomi, Sue Bird, a lot to go. But let's start with the NFL. The season is vastly approaching. Um, so it's one of these things where, listen, you're going to see a quick change here. There we go. Now I feel better. I was like, wait a minute, something was wrong. And so the NFL vastly approaching the regular season next month. So I thought what we do is that we'll go in division by division, run it through quickly. Some divisions I'll go in deeper for various reasons. So let's just dive right on in. Let's start in the AFC. Let's start with the AFC South. Because that's the more I want to talk about there. When I look at this division, you look at Tennessee getting Cam Ward, obviously rebuilding mode. You look at Jacksonville, new head coach Liam Cohn. It feels different there. There's a different vibe there in Duval. I can't even do the impression. I'm not even going to do the impression. And you look at Houston, and C.J. Stroud, offensive line, major concern. And then you look at the Colts, and so you look at this division. Um, Look, it's not a messy division by any stretch. It's not. I don't consider it to be messy. I find it fascinating because when I look at the quarterbacks, I look at your defense and the head coach. And so when we look at the quarterbacks, you got Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville, C.J. Stroud for Houston. I feel like that's the top two quarterbacks in that division. However you want to put them. Defensively, I don't think the Colts defense is terrible. I really like Houston's defense with D'Amico Ryans there. But I really want to talk about the Colts. And somebody else made this point, and I want to talk about the quarterback battle. Daniel Jones named the starting quarterback. Here's my level of concern here. It's where we look at Anthony Richardson, the fourth overall pick. The fact of the matter is, and the best way I feel about it is, he knew that his job was not necessarily stay safe into the season. He's coming off of injuries, whatever. But they bring in Daniel Jones for a reason, to challenge you, to push you, to be the guy was worthy of that fourth overall pick. Now, being a Gators fan, so that's your college football preview for the day. No, I'm just joking. I said to myself, they were wowed by the combine, and I really don't think they looked at the brass tacks of his numbers. I think they were caught up. It's like this. It's like when you see someone, you meet someone and you're just saying, "Oh my God, all of these things, like they're great, they're fantastic," but to the core, do you really know them? Like just automatically like that. And I think that's where, if you look at Anthony Richardson's stats in college, I think, and his college numbers alone, it's simply like this. And I'm gonna tell you what they are. Because listen, as a Gators fan, listen, he played these are 3 seasons. He really started in his sophomore seasons. He was a redshirt freshman, and he started sophomore season. I'll read to you these numbers. He had a completion percentage of 53.8%. He threw for 2,549 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Now, even for the SEC, which I will admit, not the biggest quarterback haven recently. Obviously, Joe Burrow is the kind of the outlier there. But if you do a pie chart of this, like, well, who do we blame? A lot of this you got to look at Anthony Richardson, because in life there's competition. Competition should bring out the best in what you do. It should bring out the best. And bring in Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones essentially was like, okay, maybe they're the backup, but they brought in Daniel Jones for a reason. And Anthony Richardson's not getting it. I understand he's hurt. And we could blame the coaching staff. We could blame, but the fact of the matter is, when Anthony Richardson, we saw spots that like this guy looks like a franchise quarterback, right? He looks like it. Solid offense, good weapons. To me, the division is not out of reach if he plays well to the maximum potential. And then now he loses out to his job to Daniel Jones. And I think it makes their 11th quarterback to start. I think since Andrew Luck. Or since Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, I think. I look at the Colts and go, man, their defense is solid, but listen, I said it on this show and I'll say it again. If you don't get the quarterback position right, if you don't get that position right, it sets back your franchise. It sounds obvious, but some teams are still kind of behind. And when I look at this division overall, I give it to Houston by proxy, but Jacksonville could be kind of a sleeper. And I just think Tennessee's just rebuilding, to be honest. I think Cam Ward trying to figure it with his young receiving core. So I'm not expecting much. So give me Houston to win that. Give me Houston to win the division. I'm going Houston. So we went. So now let's stay in the AFC. So we did the AFC South. Let's go AFC East. You look at Buffalo. You look at the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. We had Sarah Marshall on the show last week, and she's very optimistic about the Patriots, and I'm inclined to believe that because the return of Josh McDaniels, he's in a position where he knows he's going to be an offensive coordinator. I think I don't see him getting another head coaching job. I think we talked about on the show. If you haven't, go back and watch the show. The clips you can follow on my social media, my Twitter, the TikTok, and Instagram, where I posted clips of the interview where we talked about that. So I find it interesting. I really like Drake May. I think give Drake, give a guy like Josh McDaniels, who really was an integral part of the Patriots' success offensively. And it goes to show how important coaching is in the NFL. Like, I'm not discounting Major League Baseball or the NBA, but coaching, I expect Drake May to be night and day. So from last season. Now you look at the Jets, Aaron Glenn coming in. It's an interesting situation. The X factor. Listen, I always believe that Justin Fields is the starting quarterback. I felt that way. I still feel that way. And the question is, how does he fit in what this offense looks like? Because the best way to know how the offense looks is you look at Aaron Glenn's staff and you look at who's the offensive coordinator. And if you look at the offensive coordinator, Tanner Ingstrad, who kind of helped. He was, I think it's with Green Bay, I believe. So you saw what Green Bay kind of did. Like, Green Bay kind of ran the ball. They had a great running back. The Jets have a great running back in Breece Hall. Defensively, I expect him to be the same level because of Aaron Glenn. I think, and the talent that he has. Like, respectfully, the Lions, their defense, yeah, maybe but they made plays. So I expect the defense to be good. And then you go to Miami, where I feel like it's an absolute wild card because of Tua. A healthy Tua. This Dolphins team is very interesting. They went out. They essentially traded to me they traded Jonnu Smith and then essentially they replaced him with Darren Waller and a guy who was retired. And you look at how this, how the running game's going to look. You got Achane, you got Jalen Wright. How is this Ollie Gordon X factor? Like, could be something. I don't know how this division is going to look, but listen, as Buffalo, Josh Allen, and here's the thing: life after Stephon Diggs. For Buffalo, you could argue maybe defensively not, but I expect that to be better. But Josh Allen working with pieces around him, James Cook re-upped his deal. I expect him to be very good. This could be the conversation where we have, is this Buffalo's year? It's a legitimate conversation to have. I don't know how many people are willing to have that conversation, but it's a legitimate conversation to have. So, but give me Buffalo. Like I said, all that to say, give me the Buffalo Bills. Now, so we headed down. So we went to east. We went to south, the east. We're bouncing around the compass. So we're kind of going. We're going counter. I think we're going counterclockwise. No, we're going clockwise. I don't have a clock in front of me. So let's kind of go. Let's just go to the AFC North. This division, to me, it feels like a 2-team division. On paper, like Baltimore should win this division. But however, I don't discount, because this is, to me, one of the toughest divisions, because it's one of those things where it's a very tough division to play in because of the rivalries that are kind of entailed in it. But you look at Baltimore, and it's kind of like, can Lamar get over that hump? That's the penultimate question, because similar to Buffalo, it's the same. But can you get over that hump and get to a Super Bowl? Because at some point, like, I'm not saying like, oh, the window's closing, or the sky is falling. No, I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. All I'm conjecturing is that at some point, how long is the window open? Because when you have franchise quarterbacks, like star quarterbacks, like a Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, they have to win at least one Super Bowl, right? They have to. So, and the AFC is we know how competitive the AFC is. But I'm not worried about Baltimore in the regular season. It's the postseason. And it's legit. And listen, to me, Lamar Jackson, to me, you can make a case best quarterback in the NFL. You can make that case. I think Josh Allen, you can juxtapose Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. You could. And how do I know? You can look at the numbers, and you can look at fantasy, which I hope that, get a lot more fantasy football people on here. Look at fantasy. People are really, in a lot of drafts, they're getting him early. In fact, he's on a couple. Lamar's on a couple of my teams. I got Josh on another team. I have a lot of fantasy football teams. Full discretion for the people. So but we look at the other teams. Cincinnati is simply this. Cincinnati has a great offense, and they made the business decision. They re-signing Burrow, Chase, excuse me, and Higgins. And now Trey Hendrickson, we don't know about the money. And when I will use this analogy, like back in the day, like the Big 12 conference, where like I use like man, like you see like these big scoring games, like this could be a situation where Cincinnati's defense, it's going to be bad. And it may not be as bad as we think because of the offenses in the division outside of Baltimore. Like Pittsburgh's pretty good. Aaron Rodgers, I think their offense is more, they're going to be more run centric. I think getting certain pieces the way they kind of build that roster. But I like Joe Burrow. I really do. But you got to have a defense, a top 15 defense, and they have nothing there. And this has not just been a today issue. It's like we saw the offensive line and how they played in that preseason game on Monday, when they played against the Commanders. Like, that doesn't look good when the season's right around the corner. It doesn't look good. It simply doesn't look good. Now, when you look at the Browns, and I did the Browns, the preview for the RotoWire. They did the marathon. Shout out to Jim Coventry and those people at RotoWire for allowing me to come on there and talk about the Browns. The Browns are an interesting team. I don't think they're terrible. I just think them starting Joe Flacco lets me know that like they could go on a run, but but the reality is this. David Njoku played 11 games last season. They went and got this kid Harold Fanning Jr., who I talked about on the marathon. Very, 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 very good. I think that could be his successor. The run game, we don't know what's going with Quinshawn Judkins. You got, Jerome Ford. You got Dylan Sims, who they drafted out of Tennessee. Like, you still got Jerry Jeudy. You got Cedric Tillman. The team is not terrible, but the reality is we're going to get that Kevin Stefanski offense that we want, that is going to probably run the ball a little bit more. It's going to be more run-centric. If I had to give a number, I would probably say maybe 60-40 run. I think they can still throw the ball, but I expect them to run the ball a little bit more than last season, because it feels like Deshaun Watson was just checked out of the offense, and I just think he didn't understand the offense, and that to me what made that deal worse, because they should have okay, we got a great quarterback. Was the quarterback willing to adapt to the system that the coach has? Because the coach tried to adapt to what Deshaun Watson did, and even that didn't work to a greater degree. So, if I look at the division overall, I really like Baltimore to come out of it. Don't if Cincinnati can play defense, and Pittsburgh, I'm not counting on Pittsburgh as long as Mike Tomlin's the head coach. And even though, how you may feel about Aaron Rodgers he may not be asked to do much. And I think this offense with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator, it might look eerily similar to how Cleveland running the football, but we'll see. But I really like Baltimore to come out of that division. Now, let's go out west. Let's go to the AFC West. And this division, to me, it's simply put, like with the Chargers, they got to get healthy. Like, are they healthy? And it's a legitimate question. Like, is this team healthy? Because if they're healthy, they could do something, and they could be something. So the fact of the matter is, sorry about that. So the fact of the matter is, the penultimate question becomes, when you look at the division, it's like, it comes down to going back to the Chargers, like if their health. I really like Justin Herbert. I don't think I'm a Justin Herbert guy. I really like Justin Herbert, but I think he found a new number one guy in Ladd McConkey, which is something that is an issue now. It's just a matter of figuring out the stuff behind him, and in the run game with Hampton, and then you get how's that going to work with Najee Harris? Like how is this offense going to look in the run game? Because Jim Harbaugh loves to run. Another team that loves to run the football. So, and it allows Justin Herbert, the downfield to play action with a successful run game. And their defense is fantastic. But however, can they stay healthy? Because that offensive line, like I think Joel Alt, and then when you lose a guy like that, or is not healthy, the guy who protects, essentially Justin Herbert's blind side, that could be an issue. So I look at the Raiders and I go, I don't know what to expect. Pete Carroll back in the saddle coaching. I really like them getting a guy like Geno Smith. I really do. But the penultimate question is like, do they have a successor at quarterback now, or will they get one in this upcoming draft or in the 2026 draft? Because I think Geno's good enough. I think drafting Aston Genty was the right call. I think you still got Jacoby Myers, you still got Jack B. It's not terrible. It's like that once again, the defense, and then you got Chip Kelly running the offense. Like, how's this offense going to look? How is this offense going to look? Because he's known as a very creative offensive mind. So how's this offense going to look? That creates the curiosity to me. So I'm not expecting much. I expect them to be competitive, but playoff, you never know. But I'm not expecting it, and then they might go ahead and make. I don't know. To me, it comes down to the Chiefs and the Broncos. Sean Payton has shown how great he is with quarterbacks. Like he like with Drew Brees, like as great as Drew Brees is, a lot of that kind of goes to Sean Payton. Sean Payton works with great quarterbacks and understands quarterbacks. And he has the defense under Vance Joseph, fantastic defense. That defense is very, very good. I think they were top 10, top 5 defense last season. And then you toss in the fact that like they get RJ Harvey. That kid could be something. And then JK like and listen, a secret guy I really like is Marvin Mims Jr. I really like Marvin Mims Jr. a lot. That's like a deep. I really like him, along with Courtland Sutton and the pieces they have there. And you look at the Chiefs. Listen, the fact of the matter is, I'm trying to find the right words to put it. I think the penultimate question is, is there a linear? Is there a regression here? Because we saw in that Super Bowl where it just kind of looked like man, it looked like the Eagles just put on an absolute masterclass. It looked like the Chiefs, they gave not say gave up, but they just looked overmatched in every single phase of the game. It really did. So I'm not going to count out Patrick Mahomes. He's a multiple-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP. I'm not counting out Travis Kelce. I'm not. The question becomes, what will this offense look like? I think defensively they'll be fine with Steve Spagnuolo. But what is this offense going to look like? I think we might see emergence of maybe like a Noah Gray at tight end. We have, I'm not saying Travis Kelce is terrible, but you look at the receiving core, like it gets in. You're not going to have Rashee Rice for a while. You got Hollywood Brown. How is this offense going to look? And we're going to see the first couple of weeks of the season, like, how is this offense going to look? That to me, I'm not saying, my whole thing is this. There's a chance, and I don't want to, scare Chiefs fans. Listen, there's a good chance that the Denver Broncos can win this division, and the Kansas City Chiefs enter as, once again, they could be a wild card. Because offensively, what are we getting? That you got a healthy Pacheco, you got Kareem Hunt, but and I'm never going to down Andy Reid. Andy Reid, Hall of Famer. You got future Hall of Famers in Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. But at some point, the clock has to strike midnight at some point. And I feel that with Sean Payton and with him and Bo Nix, that could be that could kind of be their, listen, that could be their Moriarty to their Sherlock Holmes. Is what I'm saying. Like that could be the downfall. That could be the enemy there. Like that could stop them from winning this division. To me, if you like to play it risky, Denver could sneak in and win this division. But if you want to go Kansas City, I respect it. I think when they play in their two matchups, though, that's going to make the difference to me. It's going to come down to when they play 2 times a year. Do they split it? Do one sweep it? It's going to be a curiosity there in that front. Now, shifting gears, let's go to the NFC and let's get back on the compass. Let's start with the NFC North. The NFC North is a very interesting division because you look at the quarterback. You look at the Vikings, they're going with J.J. McCarthy. You look at Caleb Williams. You look at, for the Bears, you look at Jared Goff for the Lions. And then you look at Jordan Love for the Packers. The question is, when you look at Detroit, how is this offense going to look post Ben Johnson, who's the head coach of the Chicago Bears? What will this offense look like? Because we've seen how when offensive coordinator goes, like sometimes it's the same system, sometimes it's not. But how, like, I still expect them to be very successful because when you have guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're doing good for yourself, and you got Sam Laporta, you're doing fine. You got a great offensive line. I think it's just a matter of, just a curiosity how they're going to look. I don't expect any regression, so I don't think they're a double-digit win team. Like in terms of like they might win 10, 11 games, but I don't expect them going 14 and like 14 and I don't expect them to go 14-3 or 15-2. I'm not expecting that. Like this feels like an 11-12 win team potentially. Like the ceiling, like to put at the low, this is a 10 win team, but they can win just as many. I think they can win 12 games. I think they're good. And then you look at and you kind of shift gears and you kind of look at I'm gonna say Buffalo, Jesus Christ. When you look at Minnesota, the question is if JJ McCarthy's the guy, he gets to throw to Justin Jefferson, who, listen, what do you want to believe, top 5, top 3 receiver in the league, if you ask some people. Jordan Addison's not going to be there a couple of games. We don't, Hawkinson could be interesting. Their run game, I think it's going to be defined. But the question is, what are we going to get out of JJ McCarthy? And I trust Kevin O'Connell. The same way with quarterbacks, it's kind of low key, kind of high with Sean Payton. I trust him with quarterback. Look what he did to Sam Darnold. Like Sam Darnold wasn't going to start the season, but unfortunately JJ McCarthy had got hurt, and maybe that was the plan to have Sam start. I don't know, but I'll be very interested. I think what we're seeing is that if we get that development that we saw in JJ McCarthy and how we saw Kevin O'Connell put the work into him as we saw the work into Sam Darnold, Minnesota's a very good football team. So I really like them there. Green Bay, listen, penultimately, the problem with Green Bay is like their receiving core. Like offensively, it's like Matt LaFleur. Like, listen, Matthew Golden has impressed people a lot. I think Tucker Kraft is someone very, very good. I don't know what we're going to get out of Josh Jacobs. And with Jordan Love is not a terrible quarterback from either whether fantasy or otherwise. But that receiving room might look different. And there are reports of trades or cuts potentially, like Matthew Golden is that good, and so as delivered. So very curious to see how that situation works out. And then we look at the Bears, who I look at and go, that could be a sneaky team, because if Ben Johnson can get Caleb Williams and get that potential, and they went out and addressed offensive line like nobody's business. They went out and signed. They should be a top 10 offensive line this season. They're that good. And then you look at Adunze. You look at, you got DeAndre Swift in the backfield. You got DJ Moore. Like this is a good football team. And they drafted Colston Loveland, who, who's a very good tight end. So coming out of Michigan. So this division, like I wouldn't be shocked if we get maybe one, maybe we could get a wild card team in the division, maybe two. Because I feel this division, it's gotten more competitive over the years, because this is a division that a lot of people didn't like to talk about. Because the Lions weren't great, and then the Bears weren't great. It was always Packers, but now the tide's changing. It feels even. So if you ask me today, who I don't think oh boy, give me. I want to say the Lions because it's safe, but you know what? You could take the Lions, but if you like to, you want to play a little risque, you want to be a little risky, roll the dice. I wouldn't be mad if you look at Minnesota. I wouldn't be mad, because it feels like if JJ McCarthy's the guy that they drafted, that could be something. I think Chicago's going to be better. I think maybe Detroit takes a step back, but the question is how big of a step back they take. Because losing an offensive coordinator, you might be able to take a step back, but we don't know in that regard. So, but listen, give me the Lions, but listen, that Vikings, spring a little something on there. Now we went, so now we went north. So let's go east. Let's go NFC East. Here's the thing. For the Giants, it's a matter of, like, the question becomes, When will Jackson Dart start? I mean to rhyme like Dr. Seuss there. It just happened then to be, it just happened to be that way. um like when will the Jackson, because listen, Russell Wilson is still a viable starter. He's a great starter. It's the question of how the season goes. Because you want to see Jackson Dart. You want to see that we want to see that first round pick. We really want to see it. People are like we got to see him play. The question, when does he play? Schedule wise, I don't know how you do it, but that's Brian Daboll and that coaching staff's job. I'm not saying they're going to be terrible. They might be a little bit better than what people think because Malik Neighbors is good. I think the running game situation, they got Cam Scatterbo, they got Tyrone Tracy. The running back room is very interesting there. I think, you got a guy like Theo Johnson at tight end. Like this is not a terrible football team. Once again, I go back defensively. How do we look there? I don't think the Giants are going to be like bottom of the league. I think they're going to be a very competitive football team. Do not get me wrong. So, in that regard. So now, shifting to the Dallas Cowboys. Look, it's easy to rag on the Dallas Cowboys. It really is. Hiring Brian Schottenheimer was a choice. It was a choice. And I'm pausing for my thoughts because I'm like, I'm not saying he does it or he didn't earn the opportunity, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pull away from the mic. I recorded. I think the situation is that it's the same questions about Dak. Listen, this Dallas Cowboys team last season, let's face it, did not look good. And that's why they replaced Mike. That's why they got rid of Mike McCarthy. So my question becomes for Dallas is like, look, what can Brian Schottenheimer do that Mike McCarthy couldn't do? And then you could say it's rhetorical. You could say I'm really asking, like, what can Brian Schottenheimer do that Mike McCarthy couldn't? Because we got to look at it this way. The defense looked abhorrent last season. They looked bad. And how do you fix that? Because Micah Parsons is arguably top 3, top 2 defensive player in the league. Top 5, he should be on the top of some people's list. He should be on your list. And you got to figure that out. Because I don't think you can trade him. Because what you'll never listen, I always say when you trade certain players, you might get equal value, but when you trade superstars, you better have the mindset of like, I'm trading this guy, and what am I giving up? And what am I getting? That's the question. And that's the question that a lot of people should have in that regard. And listen, looking at Washington, listen, the whole Terry McLaurin thing, I hope that gets resolved. I really do. Because it feels like he has the chemistry with Jaden Daniels. It's great to have a quarterback to have his number one guy there. So hopefully they'll figure something out before the start of the regular season. Dan Quinn is coming there, and that team looks very different. Getting a Bobby Wagner, and getting a veteran presence on defense. Am I saying that they'll mimic the success? I don't know. But when I listen, the Philadelphia Eagles, all I'm going to say is that their own worst enemy is themselves. That's it. It's like the whole narrative about Jalen Hurts, we can shut that down. He's proven to be a very good quarterback. He's proven he's a top 10 quarterback. Even if you don't want to put him in your top 5, he's a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League because he knows his role in the offense. He has a guy named, what's his name? Saquon Barkley. He's got AJ Brown. He's got Devontae Smith. He's got one of the easily the best, one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League. Jeff Stoutland has that offensive line looking good for years. They're good. Listen, like they kind of miss Jason Kelsey in some spots, but they look good in general, and they have the Lombardi Trophy, in their building and Lincoln Financial. To me, the question becomes like when it comes to winning division, and to me, the math becomes simple. So you look back, well, Ladarius, who won the NFC championship last season? And so you kind of you look down, you go, the Eagles. So logic would tell you they haven't had a repeat champion in this division for I believe almost 2 decades. So by that logic, we should go with the Washington Commanders, right? We should. And I'm telling you that, listen, if you believe in that sort of stuff, and listen, the math has always been mathing on it, you can go the Commanders. Because to me, it's either listen, Philly breaks the mold, or Washington wins the division. Because I feel like for Dallas, they got stuff to figure out, and I think the Giants are just trying to see if they have a franchise quarterback. And I think, if they're trying to see how that quarterback position plays out in that regard. So we went to the north, we went to the east, go to the south. I could argue maybe not the sexiest division in football. My beloved Falcons, you got the Bucks, you got the Panthers, you got the Saints. The Saints. I'm sorry, I had to recheck my notes. Listen, and given the news coming out of Atlanta with the offensive line issues, that really concerns me. Given that Michael Penix first year starting, that really concerns me. The run game, it concerns me in a lot. It concerns me because this offense is projected to look pretty good. I said this is the top 5 offense. When you lose guys like Caleb McGarry hurt, then you got it doesn't look good. And sometimes the updates coming out of the ATL, listen, it is what it is there, from an update perspective. But that being said, I think this team is still could win the division. I think this boils down between Tampa and Atlanta. Because listen, Baker made a believer out of people. Baker's an example of he's been he's been doubted since college. He transferred from Texas Tech to Oklahoma. Great there, number 1 overall pick. Goes to Cleveland, and arguably he gets pushed out for Deshaun Watson. And how's that working out? Because I've said that, listen, Baker's the guy in Cleveland. I don't know why they're kicking out. Why would you pursue Deshaun Watson when you have Baker Mayfield? That will never make sense to me, but I understand who's in charge of the situation, so I'll leave it right there. Now, kind of staying in the same boat, let's talk about listen, Carolina's a team. I feel that could be a very sneaky team, and I shouldn't be saying that. When Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton, it was not because I don't think because of performance. I think it's that, listen, Bryce Young had to learn the playbook. We can understand that whole Matt Rule era, the whole Matt Rule thing didn't work out. And who got hurt in it all? Who got hurt? Bryce Young got hurt. In terms of maybe sometimes physically maybe got hurt, but it was like his play was affected and it hurt his play. So Dave Canales comes in, former offensive coordinator from the Bucks, comes in. Listen, changes. Drafting Tetra McMillan. You still got Adam Thielen. You got Sanders at tight end. This team is not terrible. In this division, the team's not terrible, but the division maybe low-key is kind of terrible. And as for the Saints, simply put, they don't have a quarterback. And I'm saying y'all got rid of Jameis Winston. Maybe you should have kept him because I guarantee you, Jameis Winston would have been the QB1 for the New Orleans Saints because you drafted this guy Tyler Shook out of Louisville. You had Patrick Mahomes stunt double and Spencer Rattler. You don't have a quarterback. As great as Kellen Moore, I wish him success as a coach, but he walked into a situation where, like, hey, you got to get that quarterback situation figured out. So I hope he figures it out. So listen, to me, the Falcons fans in me said the Falcons win the division. To me, it could go either way. So if you take away my bias, you can go with Tampa, but my bias, I'm going to say Atlanta somehow wins this division. So we did the compass. We went north. We went east now. So let's head out west. Let's wrap it up with the West. This division has changed drastically over the years. It's like, and my buddy Tanya Ray Fox, who did a great job, follow her stuff on TikTok, all at Tanya Ray, and she talked about this division, and it felt like, you know, just look at this division. Seattle. You look at the Rams. You look at the Niners. You look at the Cardinals. Like the Niners were in a couple they were in Super Bowls. The Seahawks and the Rams have Super Bowls within the last 15 years. And Arizona's been kind of muddling around with head coaches and trying to figure out the like this division has changed. San Francisco is not the same 49ers team because when they lost Christian McCaffrey, we got a question, is he going to be healthy? And he's at a position where there's a certain peak and there's also a certain place where you decline. So their health of their team in general, like Brandon Ayuk healthy? You know, they got rid of Deebo Samuel. George Kittle, to me, he's to me a top 2, top 3 tight end in the National Football League. Brock Purdy got, how's this team going to look? And Kyle Shanahan's a terrific coach. But how's this offense going to look? That to me is going to be the penultimate question. Because, and you're like, well, Darius, why aren't you worried about that defense? Well, I'll tell you why I'm not worried about that defense. Because you know who the defensive coordinator is? Robert Saleh, who was there previously and came back after the Jets let him go. I'm not worried about the 49ers defense. They're going to be fine. Can that offense put it together? That's the penultimate question. Seattle traded Geno Smith. They signed Sam Darnold. They got rid of DK Metcalf. So Jackson Smith-Njigba could be, like I said, if you're a fantasy guy, if you like that, if you're a fan, if you're in your fantasy, could be an interesting option there. Kenneth Walker. They got Noah Fant. They drafted Elijah Royal, which I really like. So that's something a player I really like as well. Defensively, Mike McDonald's going to figure that out. I think getting to the quarterback is going to be key. I think if Sam Darnold was anything like he was in Minnesota, they could win this division. Seattle's not a terrible team. Like, Geno got this team almost to the playoffs. And so if Sam Darnold is the upgrade, and that's the key, if he's the upgrade, then Seattle could make some noise. Now, you look at the Rams, the Matthew Stafford situation, a lot of uncertainty. You got a great backup in Jimmy Garoppolo, so I'm not super worried. I trust Sean McVay. There's certain coaches I trust, and when situations look, Sean McVay's one of those guys. Like, Kyron Williams, you got Puka Nacua, they Cooper Kupp now in Seattle. This team's going to look different offensively. But how different they're going to look and how will it impact them? That's the question. And then lastly, look at Arizona. Kyler Murray stock, very good in fantasy drafts. The question becomes, is Arizona's defense? And they went out and they get offensive line, they get receiver, they get, Marvin Harris as a franchise receiver, hoping he could be anything close to what Larry Fitzgerald is. If he's a modicum of what Larry Fitzgerald was, they got another great receiver there in the desert. Kyler Murray, if he's healthy, how is this team going to look? You got Trey McBride, who a lot of people are taking as their number 1 tight end in drafts, especially PPR drafts. You look at the running back room, with Connor, and then you got like Trey Benson's a nice option if you can get him as well. This division here, if I had to listen, it's not clear cut to me. This is the one division where I feel like you could make a case for all four teams to win this division, to be quite honest. And it looked like, and in this division, I think kind of was the last division to get the division winner because it feels like, does anybody want to win it? It low key kind of felt like the NFC South for a while. It's like, well, does anybody want to win it? Yeah, maybe, sure, we get it. Oh, we host a playoff game. Okay, we'll win it. Okay, cool. So if I had listen, I'm not telling. I would kind of go with what I know. I'm gonna go with the Rams, and I know there's doubt about Matthew Stafford, but you got Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy G is not a terrible backup. He's had success in this league as a starter. And then listen, I just have questions about the 49ers, and I think the 49ers could be a wild card team if they listen. If things work out there, like to me, it's the Rams or the 49ers. You could flip a coin. To me, like I'll lean Rams, but probably during the season I might go 49ers. I'll put it that way. It's like literally 50-50 in that picking regard. So those are my divisional picks. I know that took up a lot of the show. So some things had to be cut. No, but what I will do is that before we almost put a button on it, listen, subscribe to this episode, every episode of the Sports in the World podcast. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok at @Layers_Brown. Follow me on Instagram at @Layers_Brown. Follow the Facebook page of Sports in the World podcast, where I'll be like during the season, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna start posting questions and stuff like that. I might post a question by the end of this week. Something like like who do you like Super Bowl wise, all the things of that nature. You could be interactive on it. So go to the Facebook page, you type in Sports of the World, interact with it. And 9 times out of 10, if I see it, I'll interact with you as well. Interact with me on all my other platforms as well. And listen, I'm going to be really quick about college football because it's week 0. It's nothing. All I'm going to say is this: we got to talk about Michigan, right? All I'm going to say about Michigan is, look, the NCAA came down on them hard and good, and Jim Harbaugh won't be able to coach for quite some time. And the fact of the matter is, sorry, my eye is just getting itchy out of nowhere. Come on, eye. Let's get better. Okay, there. I think we're good. Okay. So what's interesting is that listen, there's the show cause for Connor Stallions and for Jim Harbaugh. This is not a good look for Michigan. And the fact of the matter is, like, I could argue that Michigan State, a team we need to start talking about a little bit more. Because this Michigan team, I don't know what the expectations were entering the season, but you throw all this in, like the postseason stuff and all of that. To me, it's just not a good look. I mean, hopefully I'll get like Haley Murphy or someone on here. They can go into it much more deeper. And to me, I like a couple of teams with the national championship. Like to me, like Penn State to me, I really like Penn State. I like Notre Dame. Like the question, like Drew Aller, I like quarterbacks. I like those senior experienced quarterbacks. Kind of, I really love it, and rooting for James Franklin to get over that hump as well. Texas with Arch Manning is interesting. You could go Oregon. I think the SEC is going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Will it be Ole Miss? Will it be Alabama? Like the SEC, it feels more open than it has in quite some time. And I think that's a testament to when Nick Saban departure from this conference, it felt like, oh my God, other teams can win it now, and other teams can make it to the SEC championship game. So that's a little bit on college football. WNBA stuff. I wanted to sneak in and be like, shout out, to the UConn. Listen, you can get a lot of UConn Husky women's basketball love on here. Listen, Paige Beckers. Listen, she's the rookie of the year in the conference with 44 points, most points for a rookie in WNBA history. I'm not going to do the Paige compare to Caitlin thing, but Paige Beckers was a baller, and if you're just learning that she's the baller now, I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. She's always been a baller in that regard. So Kelsey Plum hit the game winner. The whole stuff was so because the W is very interesting. And like I said, we're going to probably dive into it more, but the season kind of winding up. We're going to get into it more. and have more people to come on and talk about it because I love talking. Like I write beyond women's sports. I talk about right, athletes on listen the AUSL the AUSL Cup for the softball is still going. The women went over there to China. They won the World Games over there, the gold there. A lot going on. A lot of stuff is going on. Sue Bird, my forever goat. She may not be y'all forever goat, but she's my forever goat. First WNBA player to get a statue. And then historically, here's the thing. Of teams that have been with the same franchise for 20 plus years, only her, Kobe, and Dirk. Plus 20 plus seasons. She played 19, but she missed 2 seasons to injury. She's been with the franchise technically 21 seasons, but she played 19 of them. But she's been with that franchise 20 years, 2 decades. And that's why I say, if I would like to see a Tim Duncan statue as well. I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about Naomi. As we know, WWE star superstar Naomi. Naomi, congrats to her. She's pregnant. Her and Big Jim. If you follow at Kenny for your thoughts, and he had Naomi talking about was on the Slim Jim logo talking about big had the baby with talking about with Big Jim and the little Jim and carrying a little Jim. Like it was very clever. You should go follow. But I want to end the show by saying talking about Naomi and saying, if you look at Naomi and watch the interview that she did with What's Your Story with Stephanie McMahon, it's very good. And you see the emotion in there. And that when she left with Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné in AEW, I wrote about that because it was significant to me. They left the tag titles there. They were champs and they left them. And I think but she went to TNA and became a success. And it's just another example of you can leave something you love. She loved WWE. She got her start there. But sometimes you may have to leave something for a while. You can always come back to it. And she was very successful in TNA. Then she comes back. And making her a heel was the absolute right call. Her gear, she played the heel part to an absolute T. It was brilliant. I loved it. And I like what they're kind of doing with Bayley as well, but we can say that for another day. But the character work for Naomi, was fantastic. Her and the storyline with Jade and Bianca, it was all good. And to me, I just want, I'm just rooting for them. And, that when Naomi could listen, because we saw when Becky Lynch, she announced that she was pregnant. And, with Money in the Bank. And in the briefcase, when Asuka won it, it wasn't the contract, it was the title. And she went out. She was out for 2 years? And so her being out for 2 years, and then she comes back. And it just becomes better than ever. So just a shout out to them. And then for the Clash of Paris, we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about that soon. We may not talk about next week's show because there might not be there's a good chance there might not be a show next week. Most of I lost my mom. We lost our mom 10 days ago. And her service is going to be next week. It's going to be next weekend. And I don't think I'll be in the place emotionally to do it. So we'll see. We'll see. But I want to thank you for taking the time out today. Like I say, for the listen to the podcast, listen to subscribe to this episode. Every episode, go back to the episode I talked to, like I said, with Sarah Marshall. We talked about wrestling. We talked about the Patriots. We talked about a lot of good stuff there. Go back and just check it out. Every episode of Sports of the World Pod you can catch up on anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And until you see and or hear me again next time, I'm Ladarius. Be real, be you, be blessed, and be safe from all of us here from the Sports and the World Podcast.